You know that I wanna be good for you. You know that I wanna be good for you.
Another day, another Idol episode. Explain why Rob and Jocelyn had more chemistry in that one scene than Tedros and Joss had this entire season. And that's the problem with this show. And for people saying, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it, get off my page. Okay, like this is a paid subscription service. If they want to upload the Idol for free online, that's perfectly fine with me. But people are paying for this. And if they are thinking of greenlighting a second season, then they should know, what works and what doesn't. There's a difference between good bad and bad bad. And this episode, this whole series, it's only 5 episodes, right? And this show has more ideas than episodes available. And when you have such few episodes, you need to stick to one idea. And the Idol relies heavily on spoon feeding us information, right? All these twists and turns are just told to us because they don't really have time to develop them. So I guess we're to believe that it was Jocelyn's house all along. Forget the cult of Tedros. It is the cult of Jocelyn. And it seems like a lot of the abuse that we were witnessing is not because she's brainwashed by some trash man in a tracksuit, but it's something that she's in full control of. And it seems like she's really good at wrapping these men around her finger. Like the way this Rob guy just came over and explained to me why Rob looked like a Justin Timberlake throwback. Like, I know this actor, he's a very good actor, and he had more charisma in that few minutes, than, again, Tedros had this entire season. And I died. The way the weekend was, Tetris, whatever, was downstairs, like with a tear in his eye, looking at this photo of Prince, right? Like When Doves Cry. I'm like, is this satire? Like, this show is so, unintentionally funny. So I'll start with what I liked. The music was very good. One thing is for sure, The Weeknd can put a song together. Too bad he can't put a show together. And even though this whole series is about Jocelyn and her music, we've heard more from The Weeknd at this point. Whatever he's working on next, I'll listen to it. So I guess there's that. Destiny was amazing. Finally, an actor. She was a pleasure to watch just sitting. She didn't even have to say anything for us to be engaged with her. And I wish Haim was on screen. The best actors on this show are not even given screen time. And when they are, like Leia, they're not really given anything to do. Leia was just put in the background. They just keep telling her she's annoying and then she needs to just be quiet. And it's such a waste of writing and screen time. And I keep waiting for her to do something. She's obviously concerned. She knows that something is wrong, but she's not really doing anything about it. And I wonder if that's because she knows that this whole abuse situation with Jocelyn is a lot more complicated than Tedros believes. And I have to say, Troye Sivan is excellent. And for people saying oh, The Weeknd is really good or his performance is supposed to be, no, stop it. Okay, be serious. Troye Sivan is a natural actor, and I really believe him when he speaks. To be honest, he has a career in acting. He really is doing the best he can with this material. So the thing I really dislike about the Idol is the nudity. It's in really just poor taste. And apparently they just kept reshooting. A lot of the reason that they had to kind of reshoot the series is because it was leaning towards the female perspective. So I guess to change that, the females have to be naked. I'm down for equal opportunity. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but The Weeknd is always fully clothed. We don't even get a back shot. We don't see anything of his body besides his chest. I'm not sure why that is. And I really don't like it. The other thing I'll say about leaning towards the female perspective, it's a bit odd. So the series starts off with Jocelyn warning her mother. Then we find out that Jocelyn is being abused by her mother. And then we find out that she's the abuser. Excuse me? Are we supposed to feel bad for Tedros? And the one thing I enjoyed about Jocelyn's character was, I could feel the conflict inside her. And I feel like all the time we spent building Jocelyn's character was pretty much destroyed this episode. Like, I felt by the end of it, I didn't even really care about Jocelyn. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, there's just no nuance in this show. It just goes to these extremes. It's like, okay, either she was abused by her mother or she's a sadist herself. And in that case, you need a lot more episodes to unpack what caused this. Because with one more episode left, is that the twist? Like, are we supposed to leave the idol and just not care about any of these people? Like, maybe that's the point. That everybody in the music industry is just awful. And they're all just not to be trusted. Like, she was the only character I was sympathizing with. And this episode I was like, damn. I don't know. Or I don't even know anymore. So the episode begins with Tedros' crew making themselves at home and Jocelyn lying, As soon as I saw that shot, I was just like, why? So Destiny informs us that Tedros is exactly who we think he is, which is a creep. And apparently there's just pages and pages of documents chronicling this man's abuse and torture of others. And now, as the episode went on, I got the sense that they kind of wanted us to feel bad for Tedros, right? Because Destiny's information is contradicted by Jocelyn. So according to Jocelyn, she knows everything. She knows he's been to jail a few times. But apparently his version of events is that it's not what it seems. So according to Jocelyn, he had a crazy ex-girlfriend who took him for everything that he was worth and even conspired with other women to accuse him of being a pimp. And this got him sent away to prison. Apparently he's been to prison several times. Now, Tedros is toxic. And I guess the show wants to cast doubt on how toxic. I'm not really sure about the details in terms of what he did to all these other people. Like, we don't really have enough episodes to unpack that. But one thing is for sure, he's definitely a sadist. He is definitely a sicko. After what he did to Xander. On top of the fact that a lot of the people in his cult or in his crew are probably underage, right? We find out that Chloe is 17. She let that slip. So Tedros is definitely the type of man that surrounds himself with people who are more talented than him. And maybe when they kind of realize that and try to leave him, he explodes. And that's where this is going. Like, I don't think Tedros is going to take it well. And so his reaction to Jocelyn in the next episode should be really explosive. One of the things the show does not do well is kind of make us believe that Jocelyn would ever be obsessed with a man like Tedros. Even if she is this femme fatale, it's wasted on Tedros. Just say that she is actually this sadist who actually, wanted her mom to beat her to get the best out of her. Why Tedros? What's the point of Tedros? Like, there's nothing that Tedros is offering her that she couldn't really get somewhere else. Like, the fact that he even knows that music producer is just a coincidence. Like, I don't think she really needed him for this type of connection. And the logic is that Jocelyn needs to be abused in order to get some music out of her, or for her to feel like she can do her best. Watching Tedros and Joss in the studio was a lot. Like, this whole studio scene was so chaotic. Like, where did these people come from? Like, every episode, like, the amount of people on screen just kind of multiply. And the more you watch their dynamic, the more you realize Jocelyn isn't really as servile as Tedros would like to believe, right? We see her slap him sometimes when she's unhappy. she undermines him a lot, right? At one point, when Destiny was giving feedback, she makes a comment saying, you know, he's tired. Like she's kind of like basically telling him off. When he talks down to Leah, she steps in. And basically, it just seems like she does what she's told when she wants to. And when she doesn't, she just snaps out of character. There's this one scene in the studio where Tedros blindfolds her and starts, I don't know what. You know, I was just like, what is happening here? Everyone is watching. The producers are horrified. Nobody knows whether to laugh or to intervene. And Jocelyn's whole image is of being this hot star, right? This very, very attractive, like, you know, too hot to handle star. And it just seemed like she was pitching herself well, right? Like, now that we have this information that her mother might not have been as abusive as she claims, now it just feels like a lot of what she's doing with Tedros is performative and not very real. And so meanwhile, I love how Destiny was just sitting back watching all this, right? Like, I'm telling you, she had more presence just sitting than all of these people. And her assessment was pretty much spot on, right? He's a weirdo surrounded by very talented people for reasons unknown, right? We don't really know why he's attracting all these people. I mean, on one hand, they are getting the hits that they want. Like, the songs were sounding pretty good. I was thinking, like, one of the plot holes here is if Jocelyn's mother was so abusive, why didn't anyone notice? And I guess it's because she wasn't that abusive. And I'm guessing that Destiny, Leah, Xander, I'm thinking about that dinner scene when Xander said, you know, things are more complicated than they seem. They know more about Joss's character than Tedros thinks he does. And Tedros thinks he's figured out Jocelyn in a few days, right? He thinks he has her wrapped around his finger, but Jocelyn's been in the music industry. She's dealt with probably some of the worst people out there. And so Tedros is just, I imagine, like, just a joke to her. So one of the best scenes in this episode is when Destiny and Chloe are having this conversation. And I wish they did more with Chloe's character because she's very talented. I don't really like the way they dress her or like the way they wrote her in. You know, I get that she's supposed to be kind of naive and like, but it comes off kind of cringy. And I love how she was giving her like singing advice while rolling her eyes, because Destiny basically has to just stay in the background because she doesn't want to be kicked out, right? She's not really telling Jocelyn what she thinks. She's just sitting back and seeing how things unfold. And Destiny knows that Tedros is a user and a loser, right? She knows that he uses people like Chloe to feel more talented. And she also knows that he hit the jackpot with Jocelyn. And I honestly think by the end of the season, Tedros' cult will be Jocelyn's cult. Like, you get the sense that they're all going to be more loyal to Jocelyn than to Tedros, right? Tedros is trying to basically poach people in Jocelyn's crew, right? He doesn't like Leia, and he really doesn't like Xander, right? One of the most bizarre scenes is when he was just kind of stalking Xander while he was in the shower. Like, one of the creepiest shots is when Tedros was just standing in the dark, and I'm like, what is, like, is this supposed to be funny? And Tedros is acting like Jocelyn's guard dog, right? He's acting like he has to protect her, and he thinks he's doing her a favor, right? Canceling meetings, telling Leia to be quiet. So we find out that Xander quit his singing career because of a vocal cord injury, which sounds like BS because he was singing just fine in the shower. Now, what's interesting is that Xander, according to Xander, Joss's mom was such a monster that she outed him when he was 13, and this sent him kind of spiraling. And he didn't know that actually it was Jocelyn's mom until later. And I wonder if that's true. You know, I wonder who told him that Jocelyn's mom outed him. It was probably Jocelyn, and I suspect it's to keep Xander a servant. This whole scene when Xander lines everybody up, and again, all these people look underage, and they pin him down, and they start to torture him. Xander kind of Xander said some things, and I'm not gonna lie, like, I was leaning towards Xander. Basically, he was like, Jocelyn is just as sick as her mother, and that nothing coming out of her mouth should be believed. And Jocelyn said something interesting. She's like, you've been living in my house since you were a teen, basically. Basically saying, like, you're a leech. But again, if Xander's career was ruined by either Jocelyn's mother or Jocelyn, then what that suggests to me is that, you know, she's no different than Tedros, right? Like, Xander is just a loyal servant living in her house. And the whole time they're shocking him, you know, she keeps inflicting all this pain on him. And I do have to say, this was probably the only good bit of acting that I saw from the weekend. Like, you could see that he also believed Xander. Like, I could see the doubt in his eyes. And I'm not gonna lie, that was good acting. I actually, it was the only time I believed the weekend in this entire series. I'm like, finally, something believable coming out of your face. So Xander was spitting facts. You know, the only reason he kind of went back on it is because he wanted to stop being shocked. If Jocelyn is a sadist, or she's not being as honest, or if she's being dishonest about her mother's abuse, then what does that mean for Tedros? Right? It's only a matter of time before she kicks him out, and the only thing he really has to hope for at this point is Diane. And this whole subplot with Diane is another underdeveloped point. We know that her and Tedros are a thing, but we haven't really seen them speak or be together, you know, for a while. So I'm not really invested in Diane. I'm not really invested in her connection with Tedros. And so Diane has the opportunity of a lifetime. They're going to give Joss's song, World Class Sinner, to her and make her a star. And I'm not gonna lie, she's definitely more talented than Jocelyn. Like, way more talented, infinitely more talented. And the scene that's kind of sold me on Joss's two-facedness is when Diane tells her that the studio is giving her World Class Sinner. And the way that Diane puts her hand, you know, on Jocelyn's hand, and the way Jocelyn just looked at Diane, like, she looked down while she's telling her this news, and you could tell that Jocelyn was like, she wanted to rip her face off. Instead, she kind of kept it together. She started giving her crocodile tears, like, I'm so happy for you. It's such a big opportunity. Of course, she doesn't care because she has songs that are way better coming out. And the look she gave Tedros, you know, it wasn't one of heartbreak. It was one of the audacity. You know, she was going to put him in her place, right? Like, that scene could have gone two ways. Either she was going to go kick him out, or whatever. You know, the ending of these episodes always just trip me out. Like, just when you think it can't get any worse, they just get, like, significantly worse. And so it seems like she texted her ex, and this man came running. The fact that he just came because she asked her, like, these dudes, okay. First of all, Rob is definitely more dynamic. I know this actor from a few projects. Like, he's very, very good. And he definitely did not look like a man who was willing to take a slap in the face. Right? He was honestly like a Justin Timberlake throwback with that curly hair. And the way that Joss just leaped on him with no regard for Tedros' character. And Tedros was so taken back, right? He couldn't even believe his eyes. He really felt he had her wrapped around his finger. So the fact that she just jumped on this guy, I think really threw him off. Like, he didn't really know what to do. And that moment when she just clung on to him, basically she was communicating to Tedros, like, you ain't ish. You ain't never gonna be ish. You're in my house. She let him know, like, this is my house. So it appears as though Rob was ghosted. She hasn't been responding to his calls. And now that she texted him, he came running wondering what was up. And the reason they broke up is because he quote-unquote cheated. But according to him, it's because Jocelyn basically suggested an open relationship because monogamy is just not for them. And this whole scene was shot like a male fantasy. Like, it kind of really turned me off. Like, the way she was trying to seduce him, it just felt like we were watching something, I don't know. it just kind of left me icky. Like the whole crawling, the whole kind of prancing around in her underwear. Like there is a time and place for nudity, but I think because of the way they wrote this in, it's not coming off, it's just coming off desperate. It's coming off like, put some clothes on. Like, what did Rob say? Like, put some clothes on, you lunatic. Like, he basically summarized what we were all thinking. And so Rob gives us some insight into Jocelyn's background. He was surprised that Jocelyn's mother was abusive because according to him, like, she was always tender and loving with her. And even when Jocelyn went on social media to reveal this, you know, she was crying. I loved how they were just watching her cry. And then 5 minutes later, they were throwing a house party. Like, that was my first kind of side eye where I was like, okay, what is going on here? And when you kind of take a step back with this whole storyline, like, Jocelyn is a singer desperately in need of a comeback. And what better way to come back than to elicit sympathy? And it seems like she's staging her own comeback. Like, and the narrative is this young girl abused by her mother, right? Because people can connect with that. And Rob says something really disturbing. When you want something, you find a way to get it. And that's so scary to think, like, how many artists lie about their background? Is that what we're doing now? Like, I don't know why I randomly thought of Eminem. I don't know if you've seen the story 8 Mile. I don't know if you've seen the movie 8 Mile. But Anthony Mackie's character, right? He's kind of dueling with Eminem, and you know, at face value, you think he's from the ghetto, and then you find out he's from like the suburbs, right? So it seems like Jocelyn has been kind of orchestrating this, and it kind of makes sense now, this whole random storyline with this Vanity Fair journalist. Like, I didn't really know why they put that into the episode, but she seems to be like hoping she writes something about this young girl. You know, she's really playing up this kind of victim storyline. And as this episode went on, it's like, is she really a victim? And so this whole scene between Joss and Rob was honestly just porn. Like, I was just like, what is happening here? It was so explicit. I mean, shout out to the actor playing Rob. Like, at least we saw something. You know, we've seen more of him than The Weeknd. But that whole scene was just like, I was just like, damn, like, this is a lot. And the fact that Tedros was just knocking on the door and Rob just didn't care. Like, none of them really cared. Like, they weren't even pretending to care about him. Like, he was just banished to the corner, like, as if given a timeout. And then watching him just stand at the bottom of the staircase with this Prince photo in the background, like that, you know what I mean? Like, everything that she's done is to make him believe that he's more important than he actually is. And so the episode ends with Xander ambushing Rob, and this whole scene of the selfie, I'm not really sure what the point of it is, because Xander basically was advised by Isaac that he's in a situation where he has to get back in Tedros' good graces, and I suspect this photo is a way of doing that. And I'm not really sure where this is going. Like, we don't really have time to unpack a whole other storyline. Like, I wish Rob was in it earlier. Again, he was more dynamic and charismatic in that few minutes. But yeah, like, the episode, it was just filled with really underdeveloped ideas. Again, they keep spoon feeding us all these twists and turns. Everything about this show has been rubbing me the wrong way. I feel like it's an insult to its audience, and I'm so curious to see if they greenlight it for a second season. Because the idea that you can kind of put in a few superstars and nudity, and boom, you have, you know, like, you have a great show is ridiculous. And although people are watching, they're not watching for the right reasons, right? So I'm curious to see, like, is the viewership enough for them to continue like this? And I do think that HBO does care about quality content, and they are watching, or they are paying attention to how much bad press this is getting. And I don't think views can kind of make up for that. And again, it's kind of an insult. Like, the idea that you can just have nudity and, you know, just put in a few superstars and we'll be entertained is not acceptable. Like, people can handle good television. People can handle a great storyline and, you know, do better. what are we building up to exactly? And do we care? You guys let me know what you think, and until next time.
You know that I wanna be good for you. You know that I wanna be good for you.